The sky didn't just rain, it wept acid and fractured lightning. Kaelen Vance tasted blood and sea salt on his tongue. Every breath was a rusted razor blade slicing his lungs. He was sprawled across the jagged oil-slicked rocks of the shore, the wreckage of the Odyssey still burning 50 yards away. The wind was a solid, screaming entity, a force that had long ago stripped the flesh from his hope. This is it, he thought, his vision blurring. This is how a man dies, alone in the teeth of a storm the Weather Channel never predicted. A blinding flash of purple light, not lightning but something organic and alien, seared his eyes. The roar of the storm muted, replaced by a low harmonic thrumming that vibrated deep in his bones. He forced his head up. A figure was descending through the tempest. It was Lyra. Her skin was the shade of obsidian, her eyes glowing with a feral neon violet. But it wasn't her beauty or her inhuman grace that stole his last conscious breath. It was the wings. Massive, leathery bat wings, edged with a pulsing, toxic purple energy that danced like captured static electricity. They stretched wide, dwarfing the storm, momentarily silencing the wind. He was dying. And the thing that came for him had fangs. He tried to scream, to crawl, but his body was a broken machine. Lyra reached him. Her touch wasn't cold, but searing. She lifted his torso with a surprising gentleness, cradling him against a chest that was both sculpted and terrifying. Blood from his wounds immediately stained the black, shimmering fabric she wore. Then the wings. They wrapped around him, enfolding him completely. The purple light intensified, a radiant cocoon against the chaos of the natural world. The pain didn't stop. It transformed. He wasn't just being shielded from the storm, he was being absorbed by it. A fierce, invasive warmth flooded his veins, chasing the darkness away. As his consciousness finally slipped, Kaelen felt a single chilling thought telepathically impressed upon his mind, not in words but pure, urgent intent. Rest, little human. I have traveled galaxies for this. When Kaelen finally opened his eyes, the world was no longer shattered glass and screaming wind. It was purple. The sky above was a soft, perpetual twilight, illuminated by an ethereal violet glow that seemed to come from the very air. The ground was soft moss, and the air was thick with the scent of unknown, vibrant flora. He was lying on a bed of woven, bioluminescent vines. His wounds, the deep lacerations and the internal bleeding that should have killed him, were gone. Only dull, phantom aches remained. Lyra was sitting beside him. In this peaceful yet utterly foreign light, she looked less like a monster and more like a sorrowful, majestic queen. Her dark wings were folded back, shimmering like oil spills in the dim light. You are safe, a thought echoed directly in his mind, clear as a bell but without sound. This is Ethel's echo. A small pocket of my home anchored to your world. Kaelen shot up, panic seizing him. He scrambled backwards until his back hit the smooth, curved wall of the structure they were in. Where the hell am I? What did you do to me? His voice was hoarse. Lyra's violet eyes narrowed slightly, a look of ancient weariness crossing her face. I saved you, Kaelen Vance. That tempest was not natural. It was a ripple from a hunt. A hunt that I was the target of. A hunt? You look like you could swat down a fighter jet. And you talk in my head, he spat out. You're a vampire, right? An alien one. Are you going to drain me now? She rose, towering over him, her presence filling the small space. You cling to the myths of your people. We are Seraphim, Kaelen. We harvest energy, yes, but not blood. I used your strong life force to mask my signature from those who pursue me. She knelt down, her face close enough for him to see the minute, silver lines radiating from her irises. Tell me about your commander, Kaelen. Commander Rix. He was your leader, your friend. Was he not? Kaelen's heart hammered. How did she know Rix's name? He had never mentioned him. He is involved in this hunt, little human. The knowledge that Lyra possessed Rix's name felt like an invasion, deeper and more violating than any physical wound. Rix is a loyal soldier, Kaelen growled, pushing away the image of his old friend's steadfast, rugged face. He saved my life more times than I can count. He has nothing to do with this. He gestured vaguely at the shimmering, purple world. Lyra's gaze softened, a painful kind of pity shining in her violet eyes. He was loyal. But loyalty is a currency, Kaelen. And the power they offered him was a mountain of gold. Suddenly, Kaelen's head exploded in a rush of foreign sensations. Icy fear, the metallic taste of betrayal, and the overwhelming sorrow of a dying planet. He doubled over, gasping. What was that? That, Lyra said, leaning closer, her voice now a low, powerful drone that resonated through his bones, is the cost of the bond. When I mended your broken body, I wove a thread of my energy into your life force. You are now attuned to me. For a moment you felt my grief. She pulled back her sleeve, revealing a complex network of tiny glowing violet runes beneath her skin. The Seraphim are dying, Kaelen. And Rix. Commander Rix is the one pulling the trigger. A sudden, sharp tremor ran through the ground. The purple sky flickered and a high-pitched siren-like wail tore through the atmosphere of the echo. Lyra's expression turned to ice. The shield is failing. You found me. He has adapted too quickly. Who is he? Kaelen demanded, the earlier fear now hardening into pure adrenaline. Lyra turned towards the exit, her wings snapping open with a sound like tearing silk. Rix. But not the man you knew. He is the first of my people's hunters. And he is coming to kill the last of the Guardians. Lyra grabbed Kaelen's arm, the contact sending a fresh jolt of alien vitality through him. The energy wasn't gentle. It was a furious, purple electricity that forced his tired muscles into action. We move now, she commanded, her voice edged with urgency. The moment the shield failed, our location was tagged. Rix is not subtle. He wants me to know he's coming. Where do we go? Kaelen demanded, following her through a labyrinth of glowing vines. You said this was a pocket reality? Where's the exit? The exit is instability, Lyra replied, her wings beating once, hovering her briefly over a shimmering patch of air that looked like heat haze. We jump back to your world, but it must be at a point of dimensional weakness, where the storm is strongest. As they prepared to step into the haze, Kaelen stopped her. Wait, Rix, how did he get involved with your people? He hated everything he couldn't see or touch. Lyra sighed, a sound heavy with millennia of regret. We were desperate, Kaelen. To protect the Earth's core from the Seraphim who wanted to weaponize it, we needed human agents. Rix was chosen for his unwavering loyalty and strength. But the Hunter faction of the Seraphim intercepted him. They didn't just give him power, they fed him lies, that we were parasites. And now he's hunting you, Kaelen finished, a bitter taste in his mouth. A booming sound, massive and unnatural, shook the pocket dimension. A brilliant white-hot light began tearing through the purple sky. Too late for explanations, Lyra hissed, pushing Kaelen hard toward the shimmering doorway. He is here. They tumbled out of the echo, landing hard on the rough, black sand of a beach. The storm had intensified to a biblical scale. Standing 50 feet away, illuminated by a flash of sickly green lightning, was Commander Rix. He was taller, stronger. His once familiar military gear was fused with metallic seraphim plating that glowed faintly. His face was a mask of cold, surgical precision, devoid of the camaraderie Kaelen remembered. Lyra of the Nocturne, Rix's voice echoed, not human but deep, modulated and synthesized. The hunt is over. And Kaelen Vance, you chose the wrong side, little brother. Kaelen felt a surge of energy, Lyra's energy, heat his fists. He didn't just have to fight a man, he had to fight a memory. The fight was brutal, fast and heartbreaking. Kaelen dodged Rix's first punch, a blow that cracked the air itself, and countered with a Seraphim-style open palm strike aimed at Rix's metallic throat plate. The impact was like hitting solid titanium. The shock traveled up Kaelen's arm, but Rix barely flinched. Still following orders, Vance? Rix's voice was mocking. You always were easy to manipulate. Now you take orders from a blood-sucking alien who only sees you as a power source. Rix slammed Kaelen to the sand. She didn't save you, Kaelen. She claimed you. She tethered your young, vibrant life to her dying one. The accusation stung Kaelen more than the physical pain. He looked at Lyra, who was channeling deep purple energy into her hands, preparing a major blast. He could feel her fear, her exhaustion, and the profound, aching truth of his purpose. She needed him. I need your strength, little human, her thought echoed faintly in his mind. Not to live but to fight. Lyra unleashed a shockwave of violet energy that ripped a crater in the beach and sent Rix tumbling back. But the effort visibly drained her. She stumbled and her beautiful wings drooped. You are weak, Lyra, Rix declared, steadying himself. And you are sentimental. That is why you were exiled. He pulled a sleek, black rifle, Seraphim tech clearly, and aimed it at Kaelen. If you move, she dies, Vance. Kaelen lay trapped, paralyzed more by the sight of his old friend's cold eyes than the wounds Rix had inflicted. He watched Lyra do the unexpected. She lowered her arms, dropping her weaponized energy. Stop, Rix. Lyra's voice was weak but resolute. The hunt is over. I will go with you. But Kaelen Vance is to remain untouched. He is no threat. He is merely an echo. Rix lowered the rifle slightly, a triumphant, cruel smile spreading across his modified face. Done. But you lie, Lyra. You care for the Echo. That is your greatest weakness. He fired a stun blast not at Kaelen but at Lyra. The violet energy dissipated instantly, and Lyra crumpled onto the sand, her brilliant wings folding in on her like a crushed butterfly. Rix walked over to Kaelen, his boot pressing lightly on his chest. Live, Kaelen. And watch her world end. He attached an energy shackle to Lyra and dragged her lifeless form away, dissolving into the storm, leaving Kaelen for dead. The first thing Kaelen felt wasn't pain but emptiness. Lyra was gone. Her vibrant, overwhelming presence, which had tethered him to life for the past few hours, was brutally severed. A chilling silence replaced the frantic psychic dialogue, a quiet that screamed louder than the storm. He tried to push himself up. His ribs protested but only for a second. The searing ache of broken bones and torn muscle faded, replaced by a strange, cold vitality. He watched, mesmerized, as a deep gash on his forearm knitted itself closed, leaving only a faint, silver scar. "What did you do to me, Lyra?" he whispered to the roaring wind. He sat up, his vision unnaturally sharp. He could see the intricate pattern of veins in the broken rocks, the individual drops of rain falling. He felt a deep, sickening grief, Lyra's grief, still echoing in the bond. She was suffering. She was being held in a place of profound coldness. Suddenly his eyes burned. He looked at his reflection in a pool of rainwater and gasped. His eyes were no longer his familiar deep brown. They were shot through with flecks of brilliant violet, pulsing faintly with the energy that once belonged entirely to Lyra. She didn't just heal you. She transferred power. She made you a conduit. Kaelen remembered the Seraphim runes he'd seen beneath Lyra's skin. He focused his mind, channeling his anger and the echoed fear of the Seraphim. A low, violet haze erupted from his hands, enveloping his fists in raw energy. It wasn't Lyra's wings but it was his version of her power. Lyra's voice, faint, strained and filled with warning, finally flickered in his mind. "The Citadel? Find the Citadel. Don't come for me, Kaelen. Complete the mission." But the bond was too strong. Kaelen knew exactly where he had to go, where Lyra was being held. He found a strange, glowing compass spinning in his mind, pointing him inland, toward the mountains where Rix's old base camp used to be. The base camp Lyra called the Citadel. He was not just a soldier anymore. He was the unintended heir of an alien queen. The journey inland was a baptism by fire. The coast had been chaotic, but the mountains were worse. A jagged, unforgiving wilderness that only Kaelen's old marine training and Lyra's involuntary infusion of power allowed him to navigate. His senses were overwhelming. Every rustle of leaves, every distant crackle of Rix's technology, every faint scent of ozone was magnified tenfold. But the most consuming sensation was the constant, searing mental pulse radiating from Lyra. It was a complex blend of fear, rage, and a profound sense of self-loathing for having failed. "Hold the line, Lyra," Kaelen thought, channeling his own determination back through the bond. He didn't know if she could hear him, but he had to try. As he scrambled up a rocky ravine, a particularly strong wave of Lyra's memory hit him, not as a sound but as an image. Lyra standing in a clean, brightly lit Seraphim chamber, arguing fiercely with an elder Seraphim. The focus of their debate was a younger, smiling Rix, standing confidently in a military uniform. "His mind is too rigid, Elder," Lyra's voice echoed in the memory. "He will not yield to the power, he will try to control it. It will break him and then it will corrupt him." "His loyalty is our only anchor," the elder Seraphim had replied, its face cold. "We have no time for the nuanced minds. We need a weapon." Kaelen realized the devastating truth. Rix wasn't just a victim of betrayal, he was a deliberate experiment gone wrong. He snapped back to reality. Ahead, a blinding red light flared, followed by the heavy rhythmic thud of modified boots. Rix's first patrol. 3 soldiers in modified human armor, carrying Seraphim stun rifles. They were scanning the woods, their movements coordinated and lethal. Kaelen dropped low, adrenaline flooding his system. He didn't need to strategize. The alien energy in his veins was already planning the attack. He focused the violet energy into his left hand, turning his fist into a radiant, crackling club of pure force. The ambush was quick and brutal. Kaelen moved faster than they could track, hitting the first soldier with a shockwave that crumpled his armor. He disarmed the second with a swift, surgically precise break of the wrist. But as he looked at the terrified human eyes of the third soldier before delivering the final, stunning blow, a wave of cold revulsion washed over him. I am becoming one of them. He was efficient. He was lethal. But the human part of him was fading, replaced by the instinct of a Seraphim hunter. The realization was a terror greater than facing Rix himself. He continued his run, leaving the 3 unconscious hunters behind. The citadel was only a few miles away, and he could hear the hum of its immense power growing louder with every frantic beat of his heart. The citadel was a scar on the mountainside. Where once a familiar concrete military bunker stood, there was now a sprawling fortress encased in black, segmented armor plating that seemed to absorb the light. Seraphim energy conduits pulsed with a dull, menacing blue, feeding the perimeter defenses. Kaelen dropped into the high grass, feeling the very ground vibrating with the raw, contained power of the alien base. He could hear the hum of generators and the rhythmic march of hunter patrols a quarter-mile away, but more importantly, he could hear the painful thrum of Lyra's captive presence deep beneath the surface. She is in a cage, the bond whispered, the mental image a crushingly cold prison of pure light. His violet-flecked eyes easily pierced the thermal masking and found the blind spots in the citadel's defenses. His new senses were his greatest weapon. He could predict a patrol route before the hunters even committed to it. He scaled a sheer wall of rock, his enhanced grip finding purchase where no man's hands should have. Inside the perimeter the air grew colder. He moved like a shadow, using the darkness and the rhythmic surge of the power grid to mask his own signature. He encountered another hunter, this one a technician guarding a subterranean entrance. Kaelen didn't use the violet energy this time. He relied on the silent, brutal efficiency of his marine past, twisting the man's neck with a quick, practiced snap. The act was swift yet hollow. Every human life he took felt like another strand of his own humanity fraying. He entered the tunnel, the air immediately heavy with the metallic scent of alien power and the distant, agonizing pulse of Lyra. The bond was a burning rope, dragging him toward the heart of the prison. Almost there, Lyra. Hold on. Kaelen found Lyra in the lowest level of the citadel, in a circular chamber dominated by a single terrifying contraption, a cell made of pure, pulsating blue light. Lyra was suspended within it, chained by heavy, ornate Seraphim energy shackles around her wrists and neck. Her wings were crushed and limp against the energy field, the vibrant purple completely extinguished. She looked weak, fragile, and utterly human in her despair. Kaelen, she rasped, her telepathic voice barely a whisper in his mind. You fool. I told you to leave. You have ruined everything. Her fear for him was sharper than any blade. I don't leave family behind, Kaelen retorted, approaching the cage. He slammed his violet-charged fist against the energy field. It sparked violently, throwing him back, but the field held. You can't break it physically. Lyra warned, coughing weakly. It is powered by my own captured energy. You must reattune the frequency. Channel the power I gave you, Kaelen. Feel the rhythm of the blue light and force it to match your violet pulse. As Kaelen focused, closing his eyes and drawing on the immense power within, Lyra spoke, the truth pouring from her soul through the bond. There is something you must know. The Seraphim are not just energy feeders. Our species requires the life force of a vibrant, compatible species to sustain our very existence. The hunters wish to take it all. I wanted to teach you to share it. To merge with us, Kaelen. He paused, the revelation shocking him to the core. You were turning me into a human energy source? I was turning you into a guardian, Kaelen. The perfect vessel to house the balance. To protect both worlds. You were never just a shield to me. You are my only hope. A heavy, mechanized door slid open with a hiss, bathing the chamber in cold white light. Commander Rix stood there, flanked by 2 more advanced hunter units. He was smiling. Lyra, Rix's voice was triumphant. I told you she was sentimental. She brought her little pet right back to the cage. I should have known the Seraphim wouldn't be able to resist bringing back the only piece of humanity you cared about, Rix, Kaelen snarled, violet light blazing from his hands. Rix laughed, a dry metallic sound. It was inevitable, Kaelen. The alien in her is a liar. She needed your innocence, your life, to save her own dying species. And you, the proud marine, fell for the damsel in distress. Now, I will show you what true power feels like when it's not tainted by sentiment. The fight was a blur of Seraphim energy and human fury. Kaelen was faster, fueled by rage, but Rix was brutal, his every move backed by superior, stable technology. Rix landed a heavy blow that sent Kaelen skidding across the floor. You're weak, little brother. You still hesitate to kill. The Lyra bond is a pathetic chain. Rix aimed his rifle at Lyra. Seeing the threat, A desperate, powerful energy flooded Kaelen. He didn't just strike, he channeled the violet energy in a focused blast that tore through the remaining hunter units like paper. He turned his attention to Rix, shouting the name that meant everything, James. Look at yourself. The sheer raw emotion of the familiar name caused Rix's visor to flicker. A ghost of human confusion crossed his face, a critical second of instability in the Seraphim tech. Now Kaelen. Lyra screamed telepathically. Kaelen lunged not at Rix but at the power conduit feeding Lyra's cage. He used his Seraphim pulse to overwhelm the conduit's frequency. With a deafening shriek, the blue light shattered. Lyra fell to the ground, freed but drained. Her wings fluttered weakly, devoid of any glow. Rix roared in fury, the human confusion gone, replaced by pure hunter malice. You will not escape. She is mine. Lyra dragged herself toward Kaelen. We need to go now. I can barely fly. Kaelen scooped her up, his powerful newly enhanced body barely noticing her weight. He carried the exiled alien queen toward the gaping hole he'd blown in the wall, Rix's enraged, mechanical shouts echoing in their wake. They were free but the hunt was far from over. The wind was a cruel symphony, tearing at their clothes and howling through the mountain peaks. Kaelen carried Lyra like a precious, damaged cargo, her weakened body barely heavier than a child's. They found refuge deep within a cave, shielded from the elements and hopefully from Rix's sensors. Lyra's beautiful wings, once vibrant purple, were now dull and mottled gray, almost translucent. The loss of her power made her look years younger, almost vulnerable. Stop, Lyra whispered, her voice frail, her telepathic touch barely grazing Kaelen's mind. He gently set her down. The violet flecks in his own eyes seemed to burn brighter now, a stark contrast to her fading luminescence. Rix is still tracking us. We need to keep moving. We need to stop fighting him and start fighting for the core, she countered, pushing herself up with difficulty. I'm nearly empty, Kaelen. The hunters built that shackle to kill us slowly. We have only days. Kaelen knelt before her. Tell me about this core. What do we have to do? Lyra's gaze was intense, ancient wisdom mixing with immediate fear. The Ethel core is the heart of the dimensional nexus, buried deep within your planet. It balances the life force between our two worlds. If it collapses, and Rix's constant misuse of Seraphim power is accelerating it, both Earth and the Echo will be annihilated. She reached out and placed a trembling hand on Kaelen's chest, right over his heart. My final act, Kaelen, must be to complete the merging process. I will transfer the remainder of my Seraphim life force into you. It will kill me, but it will make you a true living guardian, powerful enough to restabilize the core. Kaelen recoiled, horror washing over him. No. There has to be another way. We'll find a way to power you up, Lyra. There is no other way, little human. Her tearless Seraphim eyes conveyed an ocean of finality. This was my purpose from the start. I chose you to inherit the wings of the Seraphim. I won't let you, Kaelen insisted, his voice raw. He wouldn't allow the woman who had literally brought him back from the dead to sacrifice herself. We fight Rix first. We take his power and use it to heal you. Lyra smiled sadly. That is the human in you, Kaelen. Noble but short-sighted. Rix has the power of 1,000 suns, and I am reduced to a candle flame. Yet she began the training. She guided Kaelen's mind to fully embrace the Seraphim energy within him. Focus the purple fire, Kaelen. Don't let it just be strength. Make it a shield, a healer, and a key. Kaelen sat opposite her, his mind merged with hers. He was no longer just seeing her memories, he was living them. He felt the scorching agony of the first Seraphim guardian who attempted the core stabilization, a male Seraphim named Tarian. Tarian was Lyra's partner, her bondmate. Kaelen witnessed Tarian's noble demise, the beautiful, purple energy consuming him as he successfully stabilized the core, only for his life force to extinguish completely. Kaelen pulled back, gasping, sweat chilling his skin. Tarian, you loved him. And he died doing this. Lyra's psychic response was a wave of crushing pain. I did. And I am terrified, Kaelen. Terrified that I am leading you to the exact same end. Suddenly the ground above them shook violently. The sound wasn't thunder, it was the heavy, rhythmic force of Seraphim drilling. He's found us. Kaelen jumped up, his hands instantly alight with violet energy. Lyra's eyes, though dim, were resolute. There is no time left for doubt. Rix is not just hunting me, he is hunting the core. Get ready, Kaelen. We must perform the final exchange now. The roof of the cave shuddered and collapsed as Rix blasted his way through the rock face. Dust, Debris and the blinding green glow of Rix's energy cannon filled the air. There you are, traitor. Rix's armored figure stalked through the wreckage. He paused, seeing Lyra and Kaelen locked in an embrace on the cave floor. Lyra looked up at Kaelen, her eyes shining with a love and loss that transcended species and time. This is my ending, Kaelen. But it is your beginning. Remember, Tarian. Do not hesitate. She wrapped her faded, gray wings around him one last time, mirroring the moment of his rescue, but this time the purpose was reversed. She pressed her lips to his, and the contact was not a kiss, but a massive raw transfer of Seraphim power. Kaelen felt the full force of Lyra's soul, her thousands of years of loneliness, her memories of a home light years away, and the terrifying, beautiful responsibility of being a guardian. It felt like his human soul was being torn apart and reforged in violet fire. Lyra's body went still. The energy transfer was complete. The wings, the once glorious, purple-edged structures, crumbled into glittering dark ash around Kaelen. But as they disintegrated, something new happened to him. His back arched. New wings erupted from his shoulder blades, massive, shimmering, and intensely violet. They were not Lyra's wings, but Kaelen Vance's guardian wings. His eyes glowed with the power of the entire Seraphim lineage. He was no longer part human, part Seraphim. He was the guardian. Rix stood frozen, momentarily stunned by the spectacle. No, the transfer, it worked. Kaelen rose, Lyra's ashes falling from his new, strong wings. His voice was no longer just Kaelen's. It was layered with Lyra's ancient resonance. You failed, James. I am the guardian now. And the hunt ends with you. The power was immense, terrifying, and utterly Lyra. Kaelen felt his muscles coil with an inhuman strength he hadn't known existed. His new violet wings weren't soft or leathery, they were structures of pure, hardened energy, pulsing with the life force of the entire Seraphim lineage. Lyra was gone, but she was now in him. Every thought, every skill, every memory of love and sorrow was a part of Kaelen Vance, the guardian. He faced Rix, who was still reeling from the shock of Lyra's death and Kaelen's ascension. You're too late, James, Kaelen's voice thundered, resonating with a power that shook the remaining cave structure. She's the guardian now. And I am her legacy. Rix recovered quickly, his hunter programming kicking in. A tragic upgrade, Kaelen. But an unstable one. You absorbed the power of a dying Seraphim. It will consume you. And now, I just need to take it from you. He activated a complex series of protocols on his arm plating. Rix fired a concentrated beam of blue energy, designed to nullify Seraphim power. Kaelen met it head-on. He didn't just block, he channeled the beam's energy into his wing, purified it in a flash of violet, and launched it back at Rix. The blast hit Rix, sending him crashing through the mountain wall. He emerged moments later, battered but intact. You're fast, Kaelen. But you are predictable, Rix yelled from the distance. I know where you're going. The core is mine. Rix took off with a burst of thruster fire, heading north. Kaelen knew he was right. Lyra's final guidance, the most powerful memory transfer, was leading him towards the old coastal marine base, a place Rix knew intimately, which sat directly above the Ethel core. Kaelen spread his new wings, feeling the glorious, terrifying rush of flight. The race to save two worlds had begun. Kaelen arrived at the desolate marine base, a collection of rusted hangars and cracked concrete slabs. The energy signature from the core was screaming beneath his feet. He brought his powerful wings together and slammed them into the ground, unleashing a concentrated sonic boom of violet energy. The concrete shattered. The ground ripped open, revealing a vertical shaft lined with ancient, glowing Seraphim runes. Kaelen dropped through the hole, his wings guiding his descent. He landed in a vast, subterranean cavern where the air crackled with raw power. In the center of the chamber was the Ethel core, a crystalline structure the size of a small house, pulsing with a deep, mesmerizing violet light. Rix was there too. He had affixed a series of Hunter Seraphim devices to the core, and their blue light was violently contrasting with the core's violet glow. Welcome home, Vance, Rix sneered, his helmet visor retracting slightly, revealing a face twisted by power and obsession. You led me right to it. Now stand aside. I will be the one to harness this power. Not some dying guardian. You don't want to harness it, James, Kaelen corrected, his voice calm, Lyra's wisdom guiding his words. You want to break it. You want to cause the very imbalance Lyra died to prevent. Balance is for the weak. Rix roared, activating the siphon. The core's violet light began to spasm, turning sickly green. I will consume it all and become a god. I will rule what's left. Kaelen felt a powerful surge of pain. The planet itself was reacting to the overload. He remembered Lyra's final, desperate command: stabilize the frequency. Let the core take the energy, Kaelen. Give it everything. Lyra told you the truth, James, Kaelen said, sadness mingling with his resolve. The Guardian is meant to be a sacrifice. Rix laughed, a metallic, heartless sound. Then die, Kaelen. Die like a good little soldier. The chamber was a chaos of conflicting energies, Rix's desperate blue siphon against the core's furious violet pulse. Kaelen flew at Rix, his violet wings a blur. He didn't waste time with punches. He used Lyra's knowledge of Seraphim biology. He struck the exact weak point on Rix's armor, the nexus where the Hunter tech met his spine. The impact was not just physical, it was a targeted burst of purified Seraphim energy. Rix screamed, a sudden human sound as his entire armor exploded in sparks. The Hunter technology was ripped from his body. Rix collapsed, James Vance once again, a man broken and sobbing on the floor. You won, Rix choked out, defeat absolute. But you're too late. The siphon, the overload, it's irreversible. Kaelen ignored him. He turned toward the shrieking core. Its light was blinding, its vibration strong enough to tear the cavern apart. Give it everything, Kaelen. Be the balance, Lyra's memory urged him. Kaelen understood. He walked toward the core, the immense violet light drawing him in. He opened his powerful new wings one last time, an act of glorious defiance and ultimate surrender. I love you, Lyra, he whispered, a final human sentiment. He stepped into the core. The violet light didn't burn, it embraced. His seraphim wings dissolved first, the energy being drawn into the crystal. Then the seraphim power within his body, Lyra's legacy, followed. Kaelen Vance, the Marine, the lover, the Guardian, felt his very essence merge with the heart of Ethel. The shrieking stopped. The light of the core turned a calm, pure white, vibrating with perfect, serene balance. Outside, the global storm ceased instantly. The chaos was over. In the silent, sacred chamber, the white light pulsed gently. Kaelen Vance's body was gone, but his love, his courage and Lyra's spirit were finally home, the eternal guardians of the Ethel core. The storm was finally over. The silence was the most deafening thing Kaelen had ever left behind. In the vast, subterranean chamber, the Ethel core now pulsed with a soft, steady white light, radiating a warmth that felt like a protective embrace. The destructive energy of the overload was gone, absorbed by Kaelen's ultimate sacrifice. James Vance, once Commander Rix, lay shivering on the cold floor, his metallic armor plating scattered around him like shattered ambitions. He looked up at the core, the last vestige of the Hunter malice dissolving from his eyes. He was just a man again, a broken one. James. The voice was not in the air but in his very soul. It was a fusion, a gentle harmony of Lyra's ancient wisdom and Kaelen's unwavering loyalty. Rix sobbed, covering his face. Kaelen. Lyra. I'm sorry. I betrayed you both. I failed. You were manipulated, James. But you are not beyond saving, the fused voice resonated. We are here. We are the Guardian now. And our world, Kaelen's world, is safe. The core pulsed and a faint, residual violet energy flowed from it, touching Rix's broken body. He felt his worst wounds heal instantly. But this wasn't just physical healing, it was a mental cleansing. The seraphim power that had corrupted him was gone, replaced by a stable connection to the core. Your path, James, is one of penance. You were the first human seraphim. You know the price of power. You must guard the core on the surface. Protect the world Kaelen loved. Rix pushed himself to his feet, feeling a familiar, disciplined strength return. He looked at the white glowing core. He had lost his brother, but he had found his true purpose. The storm was over, and the quiet was the crushing weight of his new responsibility. Rix stepped out of the core chamber, back into the light of a new, post-storm day. The sun was pale, but it was there. The devastation was immense. Broken trees, flooded lowlands, and the wreckage of the citadel scattered across the mountain. He walked for days, avoiding any major settlements, his only guide the steady, warm hum of the core in his mind, the combined presence of Kaelen and Lyra. He finally reached a deserted stretch of the coast, near where Kaelen had been rescued. His former military contacts were less than welcoming. They saw Commander James Vance, a man who had gone AWOL and was linked to a rogue tech experiment. His story of an alien vampire guardian was instantly dismissed as battle fatigue and delusion. They'll never believe us, Lyra, Rix murmured to the wind, knowing the core guardian could hear him. Patience, James. The world does not need to believe in Seraphim. Needs to be safe. Rix found a piece of smooth, dark stone, a relic from the initial storm's chaos. He carved Kaelen's initials onto it, setting it where the water met the sand. His shrine. His new purpose was a silent one. He used his knowledge of Seraphim mechanics to subtly disrupt weapon deals and neutralize emerging technologies that could threaten the balance. He was no longer a hunter, he was a watcher. A silent protector. One evening, while fixing a massive power grid failure miles away, he heard a sound he hadn't heard in ages. Laughter. Children playing in the rebuilt town square. Rix watched from the shadows, a faint, sad smile touching his lips. He was a broken man finding redemption in the ruins, carrying the invisible weight of two worlds on his shoulders. The memory of Lyra's final kiss and Kaelen's ultimate sacrifice was the price of his survival, and the source of his strength. 2 years of quiet penance had sanded down the jagged edges of James Vance's soul. He lived off the grid, a ghost in the shadows, his presence only felt when technology mysteriously corrected itself or a shadowy threat vanished without a trace. Then the hum changed. It wasn't the calm, stable white pulse he had grown used to. The core's energy, which was Kaelen and Lyra, began to vibrate with urgency, emitting a low, familiar violet alarm. James. They're coming. The combined voice was strained. The true hunters. Lyra's own kind. Rix's blood ran cold. He knew about the hunters, Lyra's original executioners. They were far more organized and ruthless than Rix's small, misguided unit. But, there is hope, James, the core guardian continued. Before the final exchange, Lyra's failing power fractured. A small residue of her Seraphim energy, a violet seed, was not fully absorbed. Rix concentrated. He used the core's connection to track the splintered energy. The signal was weak but distinct. The Seraphim residue had been transferred, much like Kaelen, but into 3 separate, unsuspecting human hosts across the globe. 3 teenagers, completely unaware they carried the potential power of a Seraphim guardian. Rix realized his new silent mission was over. The game had just changed. He stood up, his gaze hard, focusing on the 3 distant energy signatures. He was Commander Rix again, but this time he was fighting for the right side, guided by the love story that had saved the world. He reached into his hidden cache and pulled out his old trusty military pack. All right, Kaelen Lyra. Looks like the hunt is back on. But this time, I'm the one gathering the team. 2 weeks after the core's urgent warning, James Vance was in Tokyo, a ghost in a crowd of 20 million. The dense concrete and electromagnetic noise made tracking the fragmented Seraphim signature a near impossible task, but the core guardian's pulse was his anchor. The signal finally resolved itself in the quiet, dusty corner of an art college. It emanated from a student named Akari, a slim, perpetually hunched girl with dark, expressive eyes that seemed to hold the weight of an unseen sky. Akari was staring intently at a canvas. Her work was disturbing, vibrant violet lightning ripping through black landscapes and shadowy figures with fading wings. It was a direct, subconscious reflection of the core's energy and Lyra's sacrifice. Rix approached her with caution. He was dressed in worn civilian gear, his marine discipline the only armor left. Akari, Rix said softly, making sure his voice held no command, only concern. My name is James. I need to talk to you about your art. Akari flinched violently, knocking over a tray of ceramic tools. Something happened. The tools didn't just fall, they flew back, embedding themselves harmlessly into the wooden wall behind Rix with a sharp thwack. Akari gasped, her eyes wide with terror. I didn't do that. Rix remained calm, though the violet light in the girl's irises was an unmistakable echo of Kaelen. Yes, you did, Akari. And it's okay. It's a gift. But we don't have much time. The sudden surge of fear was drawing the wrong kind of attention. Rix felt a faint, dark Seraphim signature, a hunter scout, closing in on their location. He needed to extract her immediately. Kaelen was right, Rix thought, shielding Akari with his body. They aren't soldiers. They are children. And they are completely unprepared. The hunter scout was fast, relentless, and armed with non-lethal Seraphim's stunning tech. Rix shoved Akari through a bustling market lane. Run. Don't look back. Rix yelled, creating a diversion by flipping a large fruit stand. We need cover, James. The core guardian's voice was sharp. The girl's panic is broadcasting her energy. Rix knew he couldn't fight a fully armed hunter in a crowd. He grabbed Akari and pulled her into a narrow alleyway. The hunter followed, its metallic footsteps echoing. You're a demon. Akari screamed at Rix, terrified more by his urgency than the armored hunter. Stay away from me. I'm saving your life, kid. Rix countered, pushing her behind a dumpster. That thing wants the energy inside you. It's from a woman named Lyra. She saved your world. Lyra? Who is Lyra? Rix used the moment the hunter turned the corner to strike, not with power but with precision. He targeted the scout's optic sensors, blinding it momentarily. He then disarmed it and delivered a quick, clean strike to the power conduit in its back. The hunter collapsed, inert. Akari rushed out, her body trembling, staring at the deactivated alien soldier. You killed it? You're a monster just like him. Rix lowered his head. She was right. He had to stop acting like a soldier and start acting like a Guardian's caretaker. He took her shaking hand. Look at me, Akari. I was the monster. I was the enemy. Kaelen and Lyra saved my soul. Now they've given me a chance to save yours. I will not hurt you. But you are carrying a piece of a dying queen. And now the true Seraphim are coming for it. He led her out of the alley. Their mission had just become infinitely more complicated. The safe house was a small, isolated cabin near the coast, miles from the chaos of the city, yet subtly protected by Rix's residual knowledge of Seraphim defense technology. Rix took Akari down to the core chamber. He didn't force her, but gently explained the significance of the soft, white light. Akari stood before the immense crystal, the core. She closed her eyes. The core's pulse wasn't loud, but it was deeply emotional. She felt the ghost of Lyra's pain and the unwavering steadiness of Kaelen's heart. When she opened her eyes, tears were streaming down her face. They're sad, she whispered. But so strong. They are the Guardian, Rix confirmed. And now you are a part of their hope. Kari, your Seraphim energy is not physical. It is creative. You channel emotion into matter. Rix began her training. He had her focus her feelings, not panic but purpose, into the violet flecks in her eyes. Soon, Akari was able to draw a complex, shimmering violet shield around her body, not with force but with will. She learned to pull the energy from her canvases, creating temporary, solid projections of her own art. She was still terrified, but her artistic drive was a powerful tool. She was the shield maiden. There are two others, Akari, Rix told her one evening, pointing to a flickering map Rix had rigged up. 2 more seeds. One in Europe, moving fast. The hunters will find them soon. Akari packed her small sketchpad, her fear replaced by a strange, quiet resolve. The man who wanted to kill me? I don't want that to happen to anyone else. She looked at Rix. Where do we go next, Commander? Rix gave a rare, genuine smile. I'm just James now, and we're going to Rome. Let's find our next Guardian. Rome was a crucible of history and chaos. The core Guardian signal here was loud, unstable, and violent, a stark contrast to Akari's gentle, artistic pulse. He's angry, James, Akari whispered, clutching her sketchpad near the ancient stones of the Colosseum. Her artistic sense was acutely picking up the emotional turmoil of the second violet seed. So much anger. It's like a volcano. Akari, stay close, James, Rix commanded, his senses on high alert. His energy signature is explosive. He's not trying to hide it, he's using it. The signal led them to a dilapidated underground arena, reeking of sweat and cheap liquor. Below, men were cheering for a fighter, a massive, scarred young man named Marco. Marco was beating his opponent with inhuman speed and force. When he landed the final blow, a faint, uncontrolled violet shockwave emanated from his fist. He was the fist of the Seraphim. Suddenly, 2 heavily armored hunter scouts dropped into the arena from a ventilation shaft. Their blue lights instantly targeted Marco. Hunter activity. Secure the asset, one of the scouts yelled in a synthesized voice. The crowd scattered in terror, but Marco only laughed, a wild, dangerous sound. More to fight? Fine. Marco turned his rage on the hunters. He didn't use subtle energy, he became a violet blur of pure aggression. He tore the first hunter's gun from its grasp and smashed the second into the concrete wall with a blow that left a faint purple scorch mark. James knew they had to intervene. He's going to kill them. And then he'll kill everyone else. Marco was a whirlwind of violet-tinged destruction. He was about to deliver a killing blow to the disabled hunter when James leaped in, catching Marco's energized fist mid-swing. The impact felt like being hit by a truck. James staggered, his body screaming in protest, but his resolve, backed by the core Guardian's faint guidance, held steady. Stop, Marco. You're going to kill them. James shouted. They came here to kill me. Marco snarled, his eyes blazing, a dangerous replica of Rix's old rage. They're machines. I'll break them all. Before James could reply, Akari stepped into the chaos. She didn't attack. She closed her eyes and a wave of pure, defensive violet energy radiated from her, enveloping Marco. It was a shield of calmness. Feel the serenity, Marco. Not the rage. Her voice was a soft, urgent whisper in his mind. This power is not yours alone. Marco froze. Akari's calm essence was an antidote to his fury, jarring the Seraphim energy within him. The violet glow around his fists flickered and died. James seized the moment, using his old marine techniques to strike the pressure points behind Marco's neck. Marco collapsed, unconscious, his massive body hitting the floor. We need to go, James. Now. Akari cried out, pointing to the ceiling where the scraping sound of heavy Seraphim armor indicated reinforcements. James scooped up the massive fighter and threw him over his shoulder. Akari focused her energy, creating a shimmering, momentary violet decoy near the escape route. They fled the arena, carrying their powerful, volatile new Guardian in tow. When Marco awoke, he was bound not by ropes, but by core Guardian energy suppressors, primitive devices James had salvaged from the Citadel. You stole my power. You're working for the aliens. Marco raged, straining against the bonds. James sat calmly across from him. No, Marco. The aliens are coming for you. And I was once one of their greatest servants. I was Commander Rix, the man who helped kill your first Guardian. He then recounted the entire story, Kaelen's bravery, Lyra's sacrifice, and his own corruption and redemption. Marco scoffed, but Akari approached him. You feel the rage, she said softly, her violet eyes piercing his defenses. But look deeper. Akari focused the core Guardian's memories. Marco was forced to witness the heartbreaking scene of Lyra wrapping her dying wings around Kaelen, followed by the majestic sight of Kaelen ascending into the core. He felt the rush of Kaelen's last human breath and Lyra's eternal love. The rage finally broke. Marco wept, not in defeat, but in overwhelming grief for the strangers who had died for him. What do I do now? Marco whispered, his fighting spirit humbled. You learn to control the power they gave you, James said, releasing him. You are the fist of the Seraphim. Akari is the shield. We need one more. And we need to be ready for the real war. Marco stood, the Seraphim energy now controlled, concentrated. His muscles rippled, not with fury but with immense, disciplined strength. The third seed is in danger, James. Hurry. The core Guardian's pulse was growing frantic. The signal pointed south toward the turbulent deserts of Africa. Time to move, James said, gathering his meager supplies. He had his shield in his fist. Now they needed the key. The African sun beat down on the makeshift refugee camp with merciless intensity. The contrast was stark, the gentle hum of the core Guardian in James's mind versus the desperate human suffering all around them. The third and final seed, Elias, was a young man with intense focus, working tirelessly to fix a solar-powered water pump. His eyes, like Akari's, held the faint, unsettling flecks of violet light, but his power wasn't in art or rage, it was in logic and code. He was the key of the Seraphim. The hunters are close, James, Akari warned, creating a faint, localized shield of invisibility around their small convoy. But Elias, he's doing something to their signal. James watched Elias. The young man wasn't using physical energy. He was subtly rewriting the frequency of a nearby discarded Seraphim hunter drone. The drone, instead of scouting, suddenly flew off in the wrong direction and self-destructed. He's a natural counter-hacker, James muttered. He's weaponizing Seraphim logic against itself. Their moment of observation was broken by a massive burst of dust. 4 heavy hunter units descended from the sky. They were faster, heavier armored, and clearly prepared for a fight. Marco, containment. Akari, full shield. James commanded. Elias is our primary objective. Marco roared, charging at the nearest hunter, his body glowing faintly with the controlled violet force of his fists. Akari, taking her stance, focused her will, weaving a powerful hemispherical shield that protected the entire refugee clinic. James moved to Elias, who was still absorbed in his data streams. Elias, listen to me. You need to come with us. Elias looked up, his expression a mix of scientific curiosity and fear. Who are you? And why are those things reacting to my solar code? The battle was a desperate, losing affair. Marco was a force of nature, smashing hunter armor plates with violet-tinged blows, but they kept coming. One hunter managed to bypass his line, only to be stopped by Akari's shimmering, transparent shield, which absorbed the energy blast without faltering. James grabbed Elias, dragging him away from the firefight. Focus on the big one. the one controlling the formation. His tech is Seraphim. You can break it. I don't know how. It's too complex. Elias yelled, his hands instinctively reaching for a nearby control panel. Think in patterns, Elias. Think in balance. The Core Guardian's voice, a calm, layered command, cut through the panic in Elias's mind. The key unlocks the door. Elias closed his eyes, concentrating the violet flecks in his eyes. He didn't see lines of code, he saw patterns of energy. He felt the Core Guardian's guidance and started writing a counter-protocol in his mind. He touched a discarded Hunter communicator. His mind flashed, accessing Lyra's deep-seated memories of Seraphim technology. He found the kill switch, the protocol Lyra herself had engineered as a failsafe against the Hunter faction. With a mental burst, Elias unleashed the code. The 4 heavy Hunter units suddenly froze. Their blue lights turned red, then blinked out entirely. The massive, dangerous machines collapsed into inert junk. Silence descended on the camp. Elias gasped, his Seraphim energy drained but his mind elated. He was no longer just a scientist, he was the master key. Well done, Elias, the Core Guardian pulsed directly into his mind. Now find the leader. The true enemy. Elias focused his augmented mind on the remaining Hunter network. He bypassed every firewall and encryption, instantly locating the source of the high-level Seraphim signals. A hidden base beneath the Arctic ice cap. I found him, Elias whispered, his eyes wide with a terrifying new certainty. The leader. The true Hunter. He's preparing a final dimensional invasion. The makeshift camp was abandoned. The 3 Guardians and their unlikely caretaker were on the move, headed north. James gathered his team in a discreet location, looking at the 3 young people who held the future of 2 worlds in their inexperienced hands. Akari was quiet, drawing power into her shield. Marco was restless, ready for a fight. Elias was calm, calculating trajectories and vulnerabilities. You 3 are all that is left of the Seraphim's hope, James told them, his voice serious. Lyra and Kaelen were the first and last true Guardian. They stabilized the core, but they couldn't end the war. That's your job. The true Hunter, Elias stated, looking at his coded map. His name is Xylos. He's setting up a dimensional anchor beneath the Arctic to drain the core's energy and start the storms again. Then we go to the Arctic, Marco declared, slamming his fists together. We break him. No, James corrected. We don't just break him, Marco. We use our strengths. Akari, you shield the core from the initial drain. Marco, you strike the anchor points. Elias, you hack Xylos' system and turn his power against him. I'll provide the distraction. They traveled to the core chamber one last time. The room was bathed in the serene, white light. Akari reached out to the light. I will protect the innocent, she thought, and her shield shimmered with fierce resolve. Marco touched the crystalline base. I will strike with discipline, not rage, he vowed, and his fists hardened with controlled violet energy. Elias placed his hand on the smooth crystal. I will keep the channel open. I will be the key, he confirmed, his mind linking instantly with the Core Guardian's vast, silent knowledge. James Vance, the former Hunter, stood back, watching the 3 young Guardians accept their destiny. He felt a profound sense of pride, a legacy born from the tragic love of Kaelen and Lyra. The final confrontation awaited them beneath the frozen crown of the world. The Arctic base of Xylos was a massive, subterranean complex carved into the ice cap, a frozen fortress of Seraphim steel and blue anti-Guardian light. The air was thick with the unnatural hum of the dimensional anchor. Elias worked quickly. Guiding the Core Guardian's faint pulse, he ran a complex counterfrequency that overloaded the base's external sensor grid. We have 60 seconds of blind time. James led the charge. Go. Marco, stay tight. Akari, maintain the defensive perimeter. Elias, straight to the control center. They breached the entrance, plunging into a chilling, metallic labyrinth. They were immediately met by Xylos himself. He was taller than any Hunter they had seen, clad in elegant, lethal black and silver Seraphim armor, his violet eyes radiating cold, ancient malice. The failures of the Guardian, Xylos sneered, his voice smooth and deadly. A disgraced soldier, a chaotic fighter, a nervous artist, and a boy with a toy. You cannot stop the reclamation. Xylos commanded his elite units to attack. Marco engaged first, his controlled violet fist meeting Xylos's powerful, razor-edged Seraphim blade. The fight was devastating. Xylos's technique was millennia old. His every move was designed to kill. He dodged Marco's powerful strike and countered, plunging his blade into Marco's side. Marco roared in agony, his violet shield flickering as he dropped to one knee. "The fist is broken," Xylos declared, turning towards the terrified Elias. Akari reacted instantly, throwing a full-power violet shield around Marco, deflecting Xylos's next strike. James, seeing his opening, charged Xylos, relying purely on marine discipline and pure fury. "You want to fight, alien? Fight me." James was a human blur of fury, but Xylos was a wall of perfected alien power. James's body was covered in cuts and bruises, yet he kept attacking, buying precious time. "Elias, now." The core guardian pulsed urgently. Elias was at the anchor control panel, a nexus of shimmering, unstable blue energy. He saw the problem instantly. The kill code required a triple-layered Seraphim energy signature. One key wasn't enough. "Akari. Marco. I need your power." Elias sent the mental command, amplified by the core guardian's link. Akari, holding her shield against Xylos's elite units, nodded grimly. She focused her shield energy not outward but inward, channeling the power through Elias. Marco, despite his bleeding wound, pressed his fists to the ground, unleashing a steady, disciplined violet fist energy into the floor, feeding the current to Elias. Elias became the conduit. He took the shield's protection, the fist's raw power, and layered it with the key's code. His eyes blazed with the combined violet light of the 3 violet seeds. He slammed his hands onto the control panel and unleashed the final Guardian protocol. The dimensional anchor shrieked and overloaded. Blue energy violently clashed with the concentrated violet triad. The anchor shattered, its destructive energy instantly redirected back to Xylos. Xylos, already strained by James's relentless attacks, screamed as the feedback hit him. The armor cracked and the ancient hunter collapsed, his power draining away to nothing. The core was safe. The storm was permanently silenced. Silence returned to the Arctic base, a quiet far more profound than the one at the core chamber. Xylos was defeated. The anchor was destroyed. James, exhausted and leaning on Marco for support, guided his young, wounded guardians back home. Their final stop was the Ethel core chamber. The crystalline core pulsed with the calm, beautiful white light of a perfectly balanced system. The core guardian spoke to them one last time, the layered voice gentle and full of pride. "Well done, my children. The balance is restored." Akari, Marco, and Elias knelt before the core, thanking the 2 spirits who had made their sacrifice. "Go now," the core guardian commanded. "What? But remember your purpose. You are the triad. The world will always need guardians." Years passed. The world healed from the storms and the near apocalypse. The hunter threat vanished, crippled by the loss of Xylos and their primary technology base. James Vance remained the silent commander. He oversaw the triad's missions from a discreet headquarters, the man who had lost his brother and found 3 children to replace him. Akari used her shield energy to monitor global energy shifts, spotting threats before they even materialized. Marco traveled the globe, his disciplined violet fist neutralizing any remaining rogue Seraphim technology. Elias became the core's primary interface, ensuring its stability. And every year on the anniversary of the Great Storm, James would visit the coast, standing by the small, carved stone. He didn't see the tragic end of a Marine. He saw the triumphant beginning of a Guardian. The Ethel core continued to shine, a beacon of eternal balance. He was dying in the storm, until the alien vampire enfolded him in her wings, and in that embrace 2 worlds were saved, and a new generation of heroes was born. The first few weeks after the Arctic assault were a blur of aching muscles and psychic overload. The 3 young Guardians, though victorious, were brittle. The core chamber, with its constant white glow, became their sanctuary and their classroom. Lyra and Kaelen, the core Guardian, did not speak with words, but with pure, immersive sensation. They guided Akari, Marco, and Elias through simulation exercises. Projections of past Seraphim conflicts played out in their minds. Akari struggled the most. Her shield was beautiful, but she realized it wasn't meant just to block physical attacks. It was meant to absorb emotional chaos. "Feel the despair of the world," Akari, the core Guardian, urged her. Akari practiced absorbing the projected sadness and fear of millions, learning to filter it through her own soul without shattering. She ended each session in tears but stronger. Marco's trial was entirely internal. James pitted him against his own simulated rage, the unadulterated fury that used to consume him. Marco had to learn to channel the raw energy of his fist without the emotional fuel of hatred. It was like fighting a shadow of himself. Every missed punch was a reminder of his past violence. It was only when he surrendered his anger and fought with pure discipline that his violet fist glowed with its true, calm power. Elias, the key, faced the silent terror of responsibility. He learned to manage the core's constant, immense data flow, the psychic stress of balancing two dimensions. He saw the smallest fluctuations, the near-constant threats to stability, realizing that his job was eternal, silent vigilance. They're not just fighting Xylos' ghosts, James observed to himself watching them. They're fighting their own past. This is the real cost of the wings. James found himself staring at the piece of Seraphim tech, a fractured communication panel salvaged from Rix's former armor. Elias had fixed it, and now it displayed a short, encrypted warning from Lyra, dated moments before her capture. Rix is too volatile. His corruption is my failure. If you read this, Kaelen, abandon him. He will only bring ruin. The words were a brutal punch to James's gut. Lyra had seen him coming, she had warned Kaelen, and Kaelen had ignored it for the sake of their friendship. James had been the monster all along. Later that night, James walked into the core chamber alone. He knelt before the glowing, serene white crystal. It was me, James whispered, his voice cracking with years of suppressed guilt. It was all me. I led Xylos to the core. I broke Kaelen's trust. I caused her death. I am not worthy to command these children. The core pulsed. The combined voice of the eternal guardians filled his mind, but it was gentle, filled with Kaelen's familiar, deep compassion. The path of corruption is closed, James. Your penance is the triad. Lyra's sacrifice was not a failure, it was the price of a choice she willingly made. Kaelen's loyalty was not weakness, it was the strength you needed to find your way back. You are not Rix anymore. You are James. And you are our caretaker. Forgive yourself, Commander. The war is not over yet. James looked up at the core, tears finally falling, not of guilt but of overwhelming acceptance. He felt the weight lift, replaced by a quiet, fierce determination. He rose, the scars of Rix still visible, but the soul of James Vance finally healed. The three guardians stood before James, no longer nervous teenagers, but seasoned protectors. Akari radiated a quiet confidence, Marco was a solid tower of controlled power, and Elias was a nexus of silent, focused thought. You are ready, James stated, a simple truth in his voice. But the mission is not what you think. Xylos was just one piece. He explained to them the long game, the subtle manipulations, the emergence of hidden Seraphim tech, and the greater danger of humans seeking to replicate the power they'd witnessed. Akari nodded, understanding. The shield must not just defend, it must disarm the desperate. Marco crossed his arms. The fist must be the judge. A warning, not a killer. Elias looked at the holographic map he'd projected from the core's data. And the key must ensure the core remains unseen and untouchable. They returned to the core chamber. The white light was steady, a constant, loving presence. We are proud of you, the core guardian pulsed. The balance is not a single fight, it is an eternal choice. Go now. Be the shadows that keep the light. The triad accepted their mission. They were the violet legacy, three disparate souls united by the desperate, beautiful love story of Kaelen Vance and Lyra of the Nocturne. They walked out of the chamber, ready to vanish into the human world, their mission to protect the world that he was dying in the storm, until the alien vampire enfolded him in her wings had saved. The first mission was nothing like the brutal, ice-shattering confrontation with Xylos. It was subtle, insidious, and hidden deep within the wires of the global system. The core guardian pulsed the warning, a remnant cell of the hunters, feeding human greed. They seek to weaponize the frequencies. The target is the global communication nexus. James directed the mission from their discreet headquarters. Elias, you're up first. Find the penetration point. We need surgical precision, no destruction. Elias, the key, sat before a bank of screens, his mind a digital battlefield. He saw the chaotic, blue Seraphim code, the corruption, trying to snake its way into the clean, stable global network. He channeled the core's pure energy, his mind acting as a sophisticated antivirus. Found them, Elias announced, his voice focused. They're operating from an abandoned satellite station in the Pacific. They're using a low-yield Hunter frequency jammer. James dispatched Marco and Akari. Marco was to secure the site. Akari was to protect the satellite uplink from the energy fluctuations. Marco moved with a newfound calm discipline. He encountered three heavily armed mercenaries. Instead of punching through them, he used his violet fist to generate focused non-lethal sonic shockwaves, disarming them instantly without breaking a bone. It was the fist as a warning. Akari, meanwhile, placed her violet shield around the main satellite dish. The shield didn't block bullets. It absorbed the chaotic energy of the Hunter jammer, purifying the frequency and restoring stability. It was the shield as a healer. The mission was a complete success. No one died. No one saw a thing. The storm was contained before it could start. The Triad had proven they were the right legacy. Back at the headquarters, the Triad celebrated their silent victory, but the weight of the violet residue was heavy. Akari found herself overwhelmed in crowds. "I can't go near people, James," she confessed. "The pain, the sadness, my shield absorbs it all and it's too much." Marco stared silently out the window. "My friends, they don't recognize me. They see a beast that can't be touched. The power took my ordinary life." Elias was pale, running on caffeine and Seraphim adrenaline. "The core never sleeps, James. The data never stops. I can't turn off the balance." James felt the familiar, heavy ache of understanding. He sat them down not as a commander but as a man who had made the ultimate mistake. "Lyra told me once that the Seraphim were dying because they lost their capacity for simple human connection," James began. "They sought power, not love. Kaelen was just a Marine, ordinary and loyal. But his human love, his willingness to die for Lyra without any alien power, that was the key. Your powers are not a curse, they are a bridge. Akari, use your shield to filter the noise, not absorb it all. Marco, find strength in human restraint, not just alien discipline. Elias, the core needs a human mind to interpret its song, not just endure its noise." He looked at the three young Guardians, seeing the reflection of Kaelen and Lyra in their eyes. "You don't need to sacrifice your humanity. You need to love it. That is the real lesson of the core." Years became decades. The world spun on, never knowing the subtle, violet hands that kept its balance. The Triad aged slowly, their Seraphim energy granting them an extended lifespan to continue their eternal watch. James Vance, the former hunter, was now an old man, his hair white, his eyes still sharp. He had successfully mentored his replacements. On a quiet night, James sat beside the glowing core. He was ready for rest. "They are magnificent, Lyra." "Kaelen," James whispered, his voice soft. "The Triad. They are the balance." "The balance is stable, James," the core guardian pulsed, its light serene. "You redeemed your soul with every breath. You protected our love and our world." James smiled, finally at peace. He looked at the white light, seeing the intertwined violet threads of Kaelen and Lyra, an eternal embrace that now held the fate of the earth. He closed his eyes. Miles away, Akari, watching over a sleeping city from a tower top, felt a sudden gentle shift in the core's frequency. A new stable hum. Marco, guarding a deep-sea rift, felt the familiar human touch of James fade from their shared psychic link. Elias, orbiting Earth in a stealth Seraphim-modified satellite, saw the core's light pulse one final, triumphant time. The three young Guardians continued their watch, guided by the memory of the Marine who died in a storm, and the alien queen who loved him enough to save a world. Their legacy was the violet seraph, the silent, eternal promise of balance. Decades passed like the gentle, steady pulse of the Ethel core. The world forgot the violent storms, the fear, and the alien energy that once ripped through the sky. Life resumed its normal, chaotic course, unaware of the violet shield that held it all together. James Vance, the man whose redemption was measured not in medals but in balance, finally achieved his eternal rest. His grave was simple, placed on a grassy knoll overlooking the core chamber entrance. A humble plot marked by the same dark, carved stone where he had once placed Kaelen's initials. Now, three distinct initials, A, M, and E, were carved around the original Kaelen V. The Triad, forever young, forever bound, carried on. Akari, the shield, had learned to manage the world's emotional cacophony. She established subtle global academies, teaching the next generation of potential guardians, young minds who showed an innate connection to the core's energy, how to filter chaos into calm. She was a serene mentor, her violet-flecked eyes radiating pure compassion. Marco the Fist traveled the desolate corners of the earth, searching for latent Seraphim technology or any returning threats. He trained the next generation in controlled power and disciplined restraint. He was a rugged, silent figure, the living embodiment of Kaelen's old marine strength, amplified by alien grace. Elias, the key, became the solitary link to the Eternal Guardians. He lived in a hidden high-tech sanctuary above the core, meticulously monitoring its frequency. He often entered the chamber, sitting before the crystalline heart. One twilight evening, as the core pulsed with its customary white light, Elias felt the energy shift. It wasn't an alarm, It was a conscious, loving thought, the most vibrant he had ever felt. "Thank you, Elias. Thank you, Triad." The voice was a perfect, harmonious blend of Lyra's ancient, flowing wisdom and Kaelen's rough, comforting tenderness. "The balance is safe. The legacy is eternal. Now rest." Elias smiled, tears blurring his vision. He realized the core's true purpose wasn't just physical balance. It was a testament to love over hatred, and sacrifice over survival. The violet seraph had woven its final thread. He looked at the peaceful world on his monitors, knowing that somewhere, a young man was falling in love, a child was laughing, and the quiet, extraordinary life they were living was the true monument to the marine who died in the storm, and the alien queen who enfolded him in her wings. The watch continued, a silent, violet promise.